Jim here. I'm going to show how to increase the odds of recovering from a swollen disc or a herniated disc. Now, those things come in severity variants, right? It can be a mild one, or it can be severe where you're in the emergency room, right? So, been there, done that on both. So, last summer I had a herniated disc. 4 o'clock in the morning, I found myself in the emergency room, and yeah, it was really bad. I lost feelings in my legs and pain. And anyway, so but I did my own recuperation on that, and what I discovered for me personally was to do everything I can to mitigate the um, severity from the beginning. So, in other words, when I first start feeling something's not right in my back, take countermeasures right then and there. Don't wait until the swelling continues to get bigger and bigger, and then finally it only takes one little simple movement, and then you got a herniated disc, right? Pushing against the nerve, that's a nightmare. Been there lots of times. So I started feeling that same kind of discomfort in my glute, which is what happened last summer before I found myself a week and a half later. It took about a week and a half. I thought I just pulled a muscle in my glute, right? No, it's the very lowest disc that was swollen, and it was putting pressure on a nerve that was making it feel like I had some soreness in my glute, when really I had a swollen disc. I kept working out, running, doing, not paying much attention to it, just thinking it would go away like all the other kind of muscle strains, right? So anyway, so I started feeling the same thing after a specific kind of exercise that I did, which is what caused the last one last year. It was when I was sitting down and raising my legs up with some fairly heavy weight. It targeted that lowest spine, right, vertebrae, the two at the bottom by the tailbone there, and it irritated that disc and it swelled. So same thing happened, but this time, heads up, right? So I started taking ibuprofen, stopped doing anything that with my legs, took a break from all that. Now it took me 4 days to figure out what was going on. A few more days, I might have been in the emergency room. So I started taking it easy, but I kept doing the upper body, but I kept all pressure off the lower part of the body, right, to give that disc a chance to heal. Along with the ibuprofen, 2 of them, I took 2 every 6 hours, and just kind of took it easy, other than just doing upper body stuff. I did the kind of upper body stuff I did was mostly just kind of sitting, doing that, or maybe standing, or I'll show some more later. But here's one of the things that really helped. I felt a big difference. So I installed this bar up here about 4 years ago, and I use it. It's my hang bar, and so when I feel that kind of inflammation going on, I come up here and I grab this bar, and I'll do 3 sets of 60 seconds. Typically what I would do, I can feel it right now. Yeah, that disc is still healing, so it's still shrinking. And so what I'll do, usually what I do is I'll do straight 2-minute hang. But because I'm doing it for a different reason, my choice is to do 3 60-second ones to really unfocus, and I focus on that lower part, relaxing that very lowest part by the tailbone, the vertebrae down there, and just kind of give little taps, little jerks, and feel that little tug. So it takes that gravity and kind of separates those 2 discs, and there you go. And so I'll do like 3 sets of these of 60 seconds each. And then once my disc is healed back up, I typically only do about 120 seconds, about 2 minutes. Hey, and I usually just do 1. But when you're getting off, when you've got a swollen disc, you don't want to just drop off. Right? You don't want to drop. So what I have is I have these cushions, these cushions get me up, and these cushions get me down. Because the last thing we want to do with a herniated disc or a swollen disc is to put any kind of sudden pressure on it. That can actually cause a swollen disc to become, a blown disc. I've experienced that multiple times. Well, I had my back hurting for 2 weeks. I'd do something really intense, and then boom, I was in an emergency room. So, yeah, lots of medication. And the last one, they put me on what's called a medication called gabapentin. Bad stuff for the brain. What it does, gabapentin, what it does is it affects the brain, right? It actually works with the brain to reduce the amount of pain. And what I noticed that what it did for me was the gabapentin made it so that when I would work out for just a few minutes of intensity, I would lose body strength. Like I needed to lay down for a half an hour. And I've never experienced that in my life until the gabapentin. I told my doctor about that a few weeks back, and he goes, yeah, that's one of the side effects of gabapentin. It can, when we start to feel stress or strain from exercising, certain level of exercising, it makes the body go numb. And that's what happened. It was like trying to carry around 5 tons. I couldn't hardly move. Head to toe. From the head, fingers, hands, wrists, toes, it all went numb fairly evenly, right, from gabapentin. So I asked the doctor, can that eventually go away? He wasn't sure, right? So anyway, so that's one of the things that we can do if we have a sore back. If it feels sore, take care of it right then and there. A sore back is a sign that something's up. And so that's one of the things. Now here's something that's easier to do if you don't have a bar. This is something easier to do. You can do, right? Getting out of bed, right? So what I do is, it's really simple. I just get on my belly and I put my hands, my palms, underneath my chin. And I relax my back and my neck all the way down. Last year when I had the herniated disc, I couldn't even lay on my belly. I couldn't even do this without severe pain. I had to roll over and get off. Yeah, I couldn't even raise my head off the floor last year. So, but what I did was I slowly over time, I would lay down and I would do this 10, 12 times a day or more. Just kind of lay down and put my chin on the floor and slowly raise my head up over the weeks until I was able to raise my head up higher and higher and higher, and then I started doing this and just kind of sitting there, kind of like I used to do when I was a kid watching cartoons. And I would do that for 60 seconds, just kind of hang there like that, 60 seconds. I could feel things happening, right? It was painful, but I can feel some positive pain happening. That was really important. And so eventually I was able to get my hands underneath, and go up a little bit and then a little bit more over the weeks until finally I was able to, eventually work my way back where I can keep my hips on the ground, arms extended, and just kind of hover there, And this kind of emotion, when you got a swollen back, you don't want to be doing this, right? None of that kind of, none of that. That comes when you build up strength and everything's in tip-top shape. You can really pump those hips and straight, get that spinal column to really straighten out at the lower part, right? Yeah, that comes over time, right? And so when I get done doing this with my chin, and then I do 60 seconds, and then I do the back like that, what I do is I leave my hands where they're at, and then I come back, leaving them there, right? Don't move anything else, and come all the way back, and usually, not all the time, but a lot of times, a lot of cracking, snap, pop, kind of like Rice Krispies, right, going off. Everything's getting realigned, right? Back to good old days. So, and there's been times when I did that years ago. Could hardly walk. Pain was so bad. I did that same thing. I went up, I got up and went for a 3-mile run. The pain was gone. I took off that pressure point, right? Snapped everything back into alignment. I was causing all the pain. So now when we do these things, for all those folks that have back pains, you know, it's about going really slow. I mean, it needs to be, everything needs to be really incremental. Don't force anything. If there's too much pain, say, okay, this is my pain threshold. So in other words, okay, this is my pain threshold right here. I can't go any further. Then don't go any further, but just kind of lay there for as long as you feel you can. And then over time, you know, put your chin up just a little bit off the floor over time until the pain becomes less and less. Then over time you can keep going back, right? Realigning that whole spine from the top of the neck all the way down to the tailbone, right? Realign everything, right? And really slow. Don't force it. Don't be in a hurry. That can do more harm than good. It needs to be very, very gradual because we're realigning the spinal column, right? We're readjusting that, and that takes time to do it correctly and safely. So, oh, a needle. That would hurt in the foot. So a needle. Huh. Okay, so, and there's many other things that, you know, we can do to help realign that spine. So another one is just laying on the back and put your leg out like this, arms straight out either side, parallel with your shoulders, right? And this kind of up, then bring the other leg up, down. That realigns the spine. Do that also really slow. It's just, everything is, look at it as an experiment, each movement, right? And pay attention to that pain threshold. That's your body telling you, hey, don't go past that, right? Bad things will happen, right? So, yeah, and just keep that up day after day. I was doing those, the bars, and I also have a dip. There used to be a walker. Last year I used it as a walker after my herniated disc. I couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair also. And so now I use the walker for a dip, and I was using it as a dip back then, trying to help take that pressure off my spine. So when I was walking, I would hang in the air, right? So and my feet were off the ground, and I was just hanging there in the air, kind of like this bar, hanging from the bar, right? I did that with the walker too, just kind of hung there with my legs crossed off the ground. So anything we can do to take the pressure off the spine, right? Allow that disc time to shrink, right? The inflammation to come down so it can shrink, and then get that disc realigned, because sometimes that disc can harden with an angle, and then that's not good. That could be permanent pain. We want to allow that disc to fall right back into it, that little pocket, fully, 100%. So it ain't squirting, doesn't harden, point it out. Always put nerve, causing nerve pain, put pressure on a nerve. So we really want to get that right back into that comfortable little pocket, hidden away, no pressure points, right? And so that's how I went about healing, you know, all mine. I probably had about 30 events. I got an injury when I was in the military. Changing a military big tire by myself. Shouldn't have been doing that, right? And so since I was 18, I've had back problems because of that. Every year I was sometimes 2 weeks, probably on average 2 weeks in the bed, not getting out of bed. Couldn't. It was a nightmare just to get up and go to the bathroom. And so I was going to show also this method that I have. Oh, it's gotten dark. It was a brief eclipse, right? So I was talking about the walker that I had for getting around last year with the herniated disc. So here's the walker, and you can see just a basic walker, right? Nothing special about it. And so what I would do last summer, this time last year, I had wheels. I took the wheels off, and so I would just hang for as long as I could, and let my lower back just drop, relax it, let it drop, so those discs can separate, and I would just let that and I would do that as many times as I possibly could each day, 12, 15, 20, whatever I felt I can get away with to take that pressure off that disc. And the neurosurgeon before that wanted to do 2 different back surgeries. She says, "You're a mess. We need to do this surgery. It's going to take 2-3 years to heal, and then we got to do this other one that's going to take 2 or 3 years to heal." And I went into overdrive going, "No, this ain't going to happen." So I came up with my own physical therapy that worked, right? And it might work for anybody with that kind of a situation, or herniated disc or back problems. Give enough time for that back to heal, take the pressure off, right? And take an anti-inflammatory. I hate taking them, but there's certain situations where ibuprofen really helps to keep the inflammation down, to get that disc to reduce, right? And so the inflammation comes down, so it can actually contract and fit comfortably back between the 2 vertebrae without causing a long-term problem, right? And the sooner we can get the swelling down, the less likely that we will have, that disc will harden in an oblong shape where it's still pressing out and causing pain. Long-term, years, decades, right? Want to get that sucker sucked right back in there, right? So, and also what I would do is I would just do these dips, right? And work out my arms at the same time. It was like a double whammy, right? And I would just do those things like all day long. Right? I did so many of them, my palm would hurt, right? I had to reshift my palms. So you kind of get the idea. The idea is to be kind to that swollen disc. Do not do anything that's going to irritate it in any way whatsoever, because you will be fighting the beast, right? You will be fighting the beast. So painful, and it's the worst pain you can ever experience. I mean, if you've had them, you're right to that point many times where you just feel like you're going to faint because the pain is so extreme. And so, there you go. Any questions, comments? Please subscribe, thumbs up, ring the bell, click the like. And yeah, sometimes it's best to do our own physical therapy. To wait to go through a chiropractor once or twice a week, that's not enough. We need to hammer away at that every day in the right way. Understanding our injury and where it's at and how to isolate it in the most effective way to get the maximum healing as quickly as possible. So it took me, understanding what was going on, it took me about 3 days to lose that pain. It was in my glute. It had traveled down the back of my leg, into my knee, into my calf area. That means it was getting worse. It was about to fully rupture, right? And now it's gone. Because I said, what? I think I remember this. I need to go in intensive mode right now, all right? Heads up, right? Be kind to that area right now. And so, now everything's normal. No emergency room visit again, right? So, okay. Good day.